Welcome to our special council meeting of March 9th, 2023. The meeting has been called for the specific purpose, consideration of the approval of committee recommendations for the committee of council meeting March 8th, 2023. We could have one speaker at a time. Consideration and approval of the 2023-2025 budget, including budget committee recommendations. Under council's meeting rules, no other business can be considered a special meeting. All members are present today at today's meeting, except for, I believe, Councillor Toor, who's out of the country at the moment. This takes us to, do you want to do an official roll call, Peter? Okay. That takes us to approval of the agenda. We have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi, seconded by Councillor Santos to approve the agenda. All those in favor? Motion carries. We're now at declarations of conflict of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Does any member have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Councillor Fortini?
Yes, I'd like to declare conflict as my daughter under the bylaw.
Okay, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so Councillor Fortini, you're declaring a conflict then similar to what you did at Budget Committee. And that would then be under item 6.1, summary of recommendations from the Budget Committee meeting, and specifically recommendation BC 028-2023. Okay. Yes, thank you.
As this is a public meeting regarding the adoption of the 2023 budget, is there anyone here tonight who wishes to come forward to address the council on this matter? I'll ask the clerk if there's any request to delegate to council on this budget that's been submitted through the clerk's office.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's been no request to the clerk's office for delegations. I don't know if anybody here wishes to delegate. Not seeing anybody.
Okay. Mr. Sembi.
Good evening, sir.
Evening.
I just want to put up some concerns of our seniors. See, everything is good. You have done so much for seniors. You have done the transit free. It's very nice. We are really thankful. But for the seniors, if we want to take them out, then let them have something in the community centers. So for that, there was a program earlier used to be Active Access program. Up to 2017, it was running very nice. The limit was $31,544. Suddenly, it was reduced to $27,000. Due to that limit reduction, all our senior couples, they were not able to use it. Earlier, all the couples used to go to the gym, and that grants you that credit they were getting, and they were using it. Everybody was happy. So for the last 2 years, we had been asking the council that please make it so reasonable so that the couples can use the gym at least. But it was not increased. But in the last meeting with our Mayor Patrick Brown, he has promised that we will make it free for all the seniors. I said, okay, fine, we can. That will be very fine. After the budget will be done. But from the budget, I came to know that they are going to make it for 90 plus free in the next year. So that's not good. I think, at least make it for the 70 plus, starting immediately, so that all the couples can go and enjoy it. Not only couples, all the seniors can go and enjoy it. It's not a matter of, there's a benefit of that. They will come out. Just for the bus is free, fine, they will go there. But community center, they can't use it because they can't afford it. All the seniors can't afford it. So that is what I am requesting. If you can make it free, at least gym free for the 65 plus onwards. And that should be, effective should be, if it is in 23, it will be much better. If not, at least in 24 January onwards, it should be made free.
Are
That's
there
what I
any questions for Mr. Sembi? I see no questions. Thank you for the delegation.
Thanks.
Okay, and are there any other delegations? Seeing none. A motion to receive the delegation moved by Councillor Vicente, seconded by Councillor Brar. This takes us to item 4.1, responses to questions raised at budget deliberations. Do any members have questions or comments or wish to have staff review this material for council? Seeing none, I have a motion moved by Councillor Paleshi, seconded by Councillor Keenan, to receive the staff presentation material.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to clarify that that material includes a possible motion, and this is in regards to the traffic cameras, and that's motion 2 that's on the screen. That's, I believe finance staff can advise that that's accommodated in the budget if that motion is introduced and carried. It is not.
To Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In talking to staff, and I understand that, you know, the capital portion of this budget, I'm feeling that, you know, we can, certainly it doesn't increase, it doesn't touch the tax base, the capital side of it, but it's the operating side that does. And they won't even be operational probably until the well end of this year. So in discussions with staff, I think that, you know, we're constantly talking about ASC cameras to make our school zones and community safety zones safer. We always say that program needs to be revenue neutral. We don't want to be seen, you know, making money. This isn't a cash grab. So that being said, what I'd like staff to do is come back with a way that we can make that operational cost and the additions of ASC cameras throughout the city of Brampton up to I think we're requesting 200 total, so 150 more. Correct me if I'm wrong, or not. But essentially what I'd like to do is refer the operational budget increase back to staff to come back at a later date to find opportunities where we can cover that cost through the ASC programs.
Yeah, and so, Councillor Paleshi, I understand is that we make the capital contribution necessary, but we'd find out the mechanism to have an operational expense that is break even. But that reserve fund you had suggested previously for acquire the cameras, we make that commitment in this budget.
Right.
Through the chair, that's correct. So we can definitely add the capital portion into the budget for this year. And for the operational, we'll come back with the report later on, Councillor Paleshi, with the details of how we're recovering that.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, then if that's the intent, then clause 2 would change to increase the capital budget as set out, but then it would say, and report back on the operating cost impacts. Is that the intent?
Yes, but is that the right number for capital? I thought it was a significantly higher number.
13 million.
Yeah.
Through the chair, this is the number that was provided as part of the reply that the clerk was referring to.
Yeah.
So it's a reduced scope of that original $13 million.
Yeah, but in terms of the higher resolution cameras, my understanding is the first year was a $6 million capital contribution. Is that correct? Maybe.
So through the chair, that was if we had the AI cameras and 16 of them per intersection. We went back with Peel Regional Police. We have the higher resolution cameras, but they're the 360 cameras that will do the whole intersection.
Councillor Paleshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think given the, you know, where we are today with the auto thefts and things that are happening, I think we need the AI component. So does that AI component come with the 360s or no? I don't think it did.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Paleshi, the revised numbers, the 1.7 million includes an AI component for the 360 cameras.
Okay, but is, like, As in how? Is it the software that we're gonna be looking at and paying for later, or it comes plug and play?
Plug and play,
Plug and play.
plug and play.
Okay, so the 360 cameras is enough to ensure that if there's, there's hit and runs, there's car jackings, there's anything like that, that car rolls through that intersection, we have them.
That's correct.
And not only do we have them, but PRP gets notified instantly through the AI component.
The AI component is something we have to work with Peel Police on. So if you're talking about automatic notification,
Yep.
The license plate recognition portion has been removed from this, the costing. So that's why it's much less than the $13 million from the March 6th budget deliberations.
So we don't get the license plate, nor will we get the face of the driver.
You do get descriptions of vehicles, make, model, through the AI software.
So,
It's an extension cord.
so, Jason,
Yes.
Councilor Plush, you still the floor?
No, go ahead.
This morning I was in a meeting with the Premier on some of their provincial initiatives. And we're talking about this new license plate reader that it can be a very valuable tool to combat auto thefts. If systems like that we're going to be able to plug into, I don't want to purchase a product that, would not necessarily be the most modern, because technology adapts and evolves so quickly. If there are plugins we can have for the system that help with street racing, auto thefts, I want to be able to plug in for that. I don't want it just to be, a camera for the sake of a camera. I want it to have as much utility as possible. And so, I'd almost think what we should do is make the capital contribution in this budget, but to get a thorough presentation from PRP, from your team, on the differences in all the systems. We make the commitment that this is the direction we're going, but we don't make the selection of what cameras are using today, knowing that we want to get this right. This could be a significant tool for public safety. And so I look to Councillor Pelletier, who I've been working with on this. Is this something that you think we make a higher contribution to the capital budget, knowing that if it's not used, it could be returned to reserves?
Sorry. I think we could, Mr. Mayor. I think, but the alternative is that we have that, delegation from PRP. We sit down and have the conversation, and then a future budget amendment. Essentially, the capital doesn't affect the tax base. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to worry about putting money aside now because it doesn't affect the tax base. We have the reserves. We have, the opportunity to do that. So, budget amendment in the future, I think is probably better served. Although I wouldn't be opposed to supporting the 1.3 in terms of the dome cameras, because I think as a secondary, we're not going to be able to blanket the city with these types of cameras that are going to be, or that we're going to need, that we want, right? Or that we need.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you are correct. The 1.7 million will include the upgrading of the cameras at the intersections, provide the recording capabilities once we've done our privacy impact assessment, and then be able to provide that video to Peel Police upon their request for investigative purposes.
Okay. So I think it's better that we support the direction here today, but we also, like you said, Mr. Mayor, and the fact that Toronto got how much million for safety in Toronto? 13 million?
CCTV cameras, I forget the number, but it was the...
That's correct. And that was for guns and gangs and human trafficking specific, funding from the province. And there is probably opportunity to work with Peel Police, and to apply for the grant, it had to be a law enforcement agency, so it wasn't the municipality. And certainly something we can work with Peel Police. I know they have some very good grant writers on staff.
For sure.
So maybe the word needs to include report back on operating costs and the selection of cameras? Like, so we get that's in the report back? I guess my question is, what is the utility of a camera if it can't get a license plate?
So the discussions before were the license plate recognition cameras to be capturing everything, and that's they're not capable in the environment that they're in an intersection. That's why you need a layered approach. So the 360 cameras capture everything within that intersection. The license plate recognition that provides recognition of the occupants in the vehicle, as well as the license plate. Those cameras are separate. However, they work in conjunction with that program itself.
Well, I guess, what is the utility of a camera that doesn't capture? Where would it be useful? Like, in what aspects would it be useful to the police?
So whether the vehicle went through the intersection, what type of vehicle, for the accident investigations, the accidents occur within the intersection, not in the laneway, so they will capture the hit and runs in the intersection, the accidents in the intersection, whereas the license plate recognition cameras will not capture that detail.
So I would say to that, though, and, it takes some pretty smart lawyers out there to be able to fight that in court, to say, well, you can't see the occupant, you don't know who was driving, you can't see the license plate. If we had that opportunity, then essentially when it goes to court, we have the eyewitness.
Through you, Mr. Chair, you're absolutely right. This is not to provide this is going to be the case closed for the investigation. This is another element of evidence to support, very similar to other requests we get from law enforcement for video requests from Zoom stops.
So, part of when you hear about briefings on successful police investigations, they patch cameras, they be able to collect, whether it's a Ring doorbell, a Rogers security system, they patch all this together. And if there was an incident, like in the summer we had an incident that caused a lot of attention with machetes being used, the type of the car they knew fled, if they could they patch the Ring doorbell, this is the type of the car, and they can patch it together when it hits that major intersection. And when it hits that major intersection, we got the license plate, then we know more than just the color of the car. You're actually going to be able to successfully find the people behind it. And so the goal was to really amplify how to make Brampton the worst city in the country to commit a crime. When they said the 407 was the worst place for a targeted shooting because of the cameras, that's why I sort of wanted for Brampton. It'd be the worst place to conduct a criminal activity because you'll get caught. And so I just worry, this is a nice addition, but it's not necessarily the tool we need to make Brampton the worst place to commit a crime. I see our CEO with his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Perhaps I can assist here. And I think what we want to do is to report back on the potential cost impact of both capital and operating costs of installing specialized cameras. And we do a presentation to council before selecting those cameras.
Okay. I'm satisfied with that. So maybe, do you want to share that wording with the clerk again?
Peter is to report back on the potential operating and capital cost of installing specialized cameras and a presentation to council before camera selection.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, moved by Councillor Palashi, seconded by Councillor Keenan. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. This takes us to next item, 4.2, staff presentation materials regarding the 2023 budget amendments. This material relates to a memo from the treasurer regarding housekeeping modifications to the budget committee recommendations. We have a motion moved by Councillor. We have a motion moved by Councillor Vasanti, seconded by Councillor Santos. Question.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is this the housekeeping motion? Sorry. Am I missing something here?
Through the chair, Councillor Santos, this is summarizing all the changes that we have made to the budget in order to accommodate some of the motions, all of the motions that were made through the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
And shows the return of capital that council directed us to do in order to make room for that capital.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So in this housekeeping motion, does that also include the motion on the candidates? Or is that separate?
So because we haven't received yet the additional amount on that, it includes the motion that was approved by council so far.
The original one?
Yes, so far.
So I just wanted to amend that. There was a suggestion at committee, budget committee before that we just top that up to 200,000. Just add that extra 37,000 for them. So I'd like to amend it to just top it up to 200,000, if I may.
Certainly, Councillor. So if you just put a motion for us to amend that to 200,000,
Okay.
we will.
Okay, so the motion for this would be to amend the candidates change room renovation from 164,000 to 200,000 instead.
So through you, Mr. Mayor.
164, it was 164.
So my advice will be, because that recommendation was considered by the Budget Committee, and that's item 6.1 on today's agenda, which
Okay.
are all the Budget Committee recommendations.
Okay,
And specifically, that is recommendation BC 005-2023, when Budget Committee received their delegation and the motion was moved to add the 164,000. So I would suggest that that be amended at that point in time, when we deal with 6.1.
Through the chair, Councillor, this was just intended to give you the picture of everything that has been approved to this point.
okay. That's fine, thank you. Okay.
Okay, so we have the motion moved by Councillor Vicente, seconded by Councillor Santos. The staff presentation 2020 budget amendments to special council meeting March 9th, 2020 be received. All those in favor? Motion carries. This takes us to item 5.1, staff report in regards to corporate events listings. And I believe we have a motion moved by Councillor Palashi for corporate event listings.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, perhaps just for some context before Councillor Palashi introduces his motion. This was discussed yesterday at Committee of Council and was the report and the motions that were moved were referred to the special council meeting today. And I understand Councillor Palashi may have a motion that's slightly different, but tries to address the needs that would have, I think, result in instead of a $250,000 net budget impact, a $50,000 net budget impact.
That's correct, Peter. And thank you to staff for finding the efficiencies.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion, the alternative motion, which will be moved by Councillor Palashi for this item, is to receive the report from Committee of Council yesterday that was referred to today's meeting, and at the request of committee yesterday to include an appropriate component for Hockey Night in Brampton on an annual basis in the 2023 to 2026 corporate events listing. Also include Latino Heritage Month in October, and the rest of the recommendations are as per set out in the staff report, save and except for the very last one, which I think is number 6. There was striking out the addition of a net new $200,000, and instead, Strategic Communications deliver the enhancements to events in 2023 to 2026. Corporate listings, as noted above, within the existing operating budget proposed for 2023, and report back at the next applicable budget cycle on the true costs of the enhancements.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. And can I just say, you know, to Megan and to Jason, you guys do a fantastic, phenomenal job at delivering the events that we ask you to deliver. Even the ones that we throw at you kind of last minute or include in every year, you know, you guys work so hard at the event, day of, and leading up to the event, and I just wanted to thank you so much, and look forward to another year of fantastic Brampton events. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Santos.
Thank you, Mayor. I just also want to thank Councillor Pleshy for moving this motion. I second Councillor Pleshy's point about staff and the excellence that they deliver every single time we have an event. And I'm happy to finally see that we're going to have a Diwali event here in Brampton. It's been a long time coming. Folks have been asking us to do that for a very long time, even into the previous term. I'm happy to see that it's now going to be happening for sure. Thank you. And I'm told that Councillor Keenan had a very strong hand on that as well, so thank you, Councillor Keenan.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we just require a seconder for Councillor Peleshi's motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just note, Councillor Peleshy said we throw things at you last minute. That is so common in the city of Brampton. You looked at when the Argonauts won the Grey Cup, and there was a number of players from the Toronto Argos that reached out to us and said they wanted to visit their hometown. You put together a phenomenal event. When we had the tragic passing of the Queen, the protocol that was put together was a beautiful tribute to Her Majesty, and you never know what events are to come, but we know they're done in a very exceptional way in the city of Brampton. So thank you for recognizing that, Councillor Peleshy. We have the motion on the floor. All those in favor, the motion carries. Okay, this takes us to housekeeping modifications. Housekeeping memorandum from Nash Damer, Treasurer Corporate Support Service dated March 9th. Housekeeping modifications to budget committee recommendations, special meeting of March 9th be received. Provincial gas tax increase and the 2023 operating budget be amended for the youth employment and engagement. So we have the motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Brar. All those in favor, motion carries.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the next item is 5.3, which are budget technical recommendations. And as I understand it from finance, there's 9 recommendations, and they really are to sort of tie up the final budget after the budget committee recommendations have been considered. So what I'd suggest is traditionally these recommendations are considered at the end after budget committee recommendations. In the event any amendments have to be made to these to accommodate decisions council makes on its budget committee recommendations.
Okay. So we'll do that last. Okay. Okay, summary recommendations moved by Councillor Peleshy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have I've done some work in talking to, Councillor Brar, myself, with the delegations, and to be completely honest, we're really getting hammered out in the west end of Brampton on the lack of recreation for the community. I've done some work on this to see what the geographic area is, and just in a little bit of Ward 6, Ward 4, and Ward 5, we have over 60,000 people that aren't even close to a rec center compared to across the city. This is the biggest area with the most amount of people that don't have that direct access to a rec center. So, in looking at the budget and listening to the residents, we felt it was time for us to do something for the Embleton Community Center. And, I scoured through the city to see where there was opportunities where that were a little bit overutilized and in a similar geographic area. And, I don't like to harp on Bramalea, but the fact that, Howden Rec Center had a price tag of $23 million, and a similar geographic area came back with less than 40,000 people. And in that geographic area, there was 3 rec centers. And, I think that I hope, and I know that it's hard to trust what I'm gonna say here, but if I represented that area and I saw that there was another area in the city of Brampton that didn't have those recreation amenities that are so needed and loved by everybody in the city of Brampton, I would offer up that rec center. So regardless, whether it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And so therefore I have a motion that I'd like to put forward. And essentially it is taking Howden Community Center and the construction of Howden and moving it to the capital budget of 2024. And it is taking out from 2024 Embleton Community Center and moving it into 2023. Because this needs to get done, and this needs to get done now. I'm happy to read it or just let members of council read the motion as on the screen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Power.
Thank you, through the mayor. That's a bit tough there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Can I ask staff, if we look at Embleton and we look at Howden, probability of being built, what's the timeline? As well as how much money have we sunk into Howden?
For you, Mr. Mayor, Howden is being designed currently, and it's proposed to be tendered Q3 of this year. Embleton is, the construction is not due to start until 2024. So even though we advance the budget, we'll still have to design prior to issuing the tender. So.
Sorry, so Embleton is not ready till 2024?
In terms of construction, it won't be able to start until 2024 because we have to complete the design and then issue the CM contract prior to start of construction.
So when is Howden set to start construction?
We will tender in Q3 and hopefully we award before the end of the year, this year.
And what's the cost so far that we've put into Howden?
I don't know the exact numbers in terms of design work, but currently we have $24 million approved in the budget, and then the Class A estimate is in the $34 million.
The estimate's $34 million, and we only have 24 approved.
Yes. Well, in the budget currently. Yes.
How much have we spent so far?
What is spent, I don't have the numbers. Maybe someone in finance can answer that. But currently, whatever is spent is on design. So.
second the motion.
Wasted money,
Sorry?
which is not wasted money.
One speaker at a time.
So, how long has Howden been on the books? Because we tore it down, what, last year?
I don't have those numbers in front of me, but it's been on the books for a few years, and I'm just been told the design budget for Howden was around $6 million.
Sorry?
That's 6 million. That's for both design, the active design, and construction administration. But in terms of when it came to the budget, I don't have those numbers before me right now, but it's been on the books for a few years.
So through the chair to Councillor Power, 2018 was the original date that it came forward. And the $6 million is for design, but also for construction. It's just a number that we put up so that we can get through the full design and then move into the construction phase.
So, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to it.
Councillor Fortini.
This was approved in 2017.
18.
And we've been playing around back and forth, swapping with the church, swapping with the school. Back and forth. And we tore down a building. Why would we tear down a building? And you know, if we go back 4 years ago, when Balmoral, or actually 3 years ago, came up, I said, forget about Balmoral. Let's sell the property, build something half decent in Victoria Park, and something half decent in Howden, instead of having three. But I thought we were going for an RFP at the end of this month. I've asked. Victoria Park and Howden were supposed to go for an RFP. Now we're moving ahead again.
So Victoria Park is ready for, has been ready for tender since last year. We, just in terms of chronology, we had tendered Chris Gibson, and we're waiting for the output of the tender prior to issuing the tender for Victoria Park. But as you may recall, the tender was beyond the budget of the project.
So we tore down a building, and we were not sure if we were gonna build. You know, the swimming pool was closed for years because there was issues there with the pool. It was broken, unsafe ceiling. But the building was being used. And there's really nothing around that geographic area besides Professor's Lake. Elm Mitchell is a little pool. There's nothing there. And that was done through, and this is development charges, isn't it? It's not tax money, it's development charges, it's a new building. It's DC charges, am I correct? It's not through the tax base, it's done through development charges, so it's just like we're doing Victoria Park but meanwhile, Balmoral is tax money. That's why I was saying 3 years ago, let's forget about that, but build Howden or build Victoria Park. So it's development charges? It's a new, I remember when they were gonna not fix it 4 years ago, not put more money into it, because it would have been putting a Band-Aid on a cut. They decided if we tear it down, it becomes development charges. It's not on the tax base, because it's a new build. So I know Councillor Pelletier was waiting also for this, that project from 2018, 2017, but it's DC charges. So we moved people, we got SNAPSOL there, we created a room for them, and everything, part of the design, and now we're not gonna wait. And construction costs, it keeps going up, it keeps going up, it keeps going up.
The funding for Howden is 50% external funding, federal funding, and 50% DC money.
So what happens to the federal funding now? If it's already established for Howden, where does that go?
It
We got
depends on
funding
the
for
delivery
Howden
dates.
under federal, not for other places.
it has to comply with the dates and the funding that is imposed in the grant itself.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
moving it over, we cannot move federal funding to a different rec center. And the other 50% is development charges. So the federal funding was applied to this rec center. That's why we tore it down. We sent letters to the notice. It's on the front page. Yep.
Has something to add.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, I just want to sort of recap staff's understanding at the moment. So Howden is according to the director, is scheduled to go towards Q3 or Q4 of this year, and Hamilton was scheduled for 2024. Based on the motion on the floor, understanding is that staff resources is now going to be going to expediting Hamilton, and basically Howden would then follow right after that. So Howden would be probably Q2 of 2024, and Hamilton would take the place. In terms of funding, you're correct. Nobody's transferring federal money. It would still stay with the Howden Community Center. The only thing that's being proposed, and I don't think the motion on the floor right now is just basically to prioritize Hamilton ahead of Howden. And
So-
that works out to be probably about maybe an 8 months.
What other rec center is close by Howden Rec Center, since the geographic, besides the little pool in Mitchell?
Can you repeat the question?
Rob?
So through the chair, we have
Professors Lake.
Professors like Jacuzzi Park, Greenbrier, and Ellen Mitchell
Well, Jacuzzi
are all
Park-
within a half a kilometer of each other.
Doesn't have the same facilities as this one. Jacuzzi Park's just a curling.
Well, it has this chalet that we do programming
Well,
out of. Greenbrier has programming out of that facility as well. I know Commissioner Boyce can help
So
you.
what are we gonna do with Snapsop? Then we said to them, we're giving them room there, we're doing a special room for them, for these kids. It's an organization with disability that, I think they're around the age of 15, 16, right up to 40 years old. We were supposed to provide space, we moved them into the other place. Everything's designed for them. And now we're gonna make them wait again. These guys have been waiting since 2018.
Currently, I think they're at Ellen Mitchell.
They're in Mitchell, but it's too small. I was there, and, it's very small. They're overcrowded. I know Layuna did a lot of work there and stuff, and they've just been waiting. So, and the other programs, like we tore this building down, we took out a pool, we took everything down to tear it down. And I think no one would tear their house down and say, I'm gonna build 5 years on the road. This has been going on since 2017. So, I feel bad for that organization, that they got no room, they can't take any more people. And we said we designed a spot for them, especially for them in that area, and we're not gonna charge them rent.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify a point. Hamilton is a large project which is currently in design. And so the timing for ending the design and then going into construction, if we advance Howden, it doesn't in one way affect that process. So deferring Howden doesn't affect the delivery of Hamilton because of the duration.
So my thing is, why do it? And I've been asking about Howden here for the last 4 years. And when we sit here and we look at staff, and I'm not blaming anyone, we're swapping with the church. I had a meeting with the church, they don't know about it. We swapped with the school on the soccer field. We went to them. It was not that they came to us, so that was misled. We've been working on the design for 4 years, every time I ask, 3 years. Now we're still in the design. How long does it take to design a rec center? It's a box with some rooms, washrooms. We used to design and build in Home Depots. They're already putting stuff in shelves in 6 months, 53,000 square feet. So if we're just going to go back to it, now they're saying the construction cost is a lot. Well, we've been dragging our feet on this. And, I feel bad for that organization. They got no space. They can't take any more of these kids, these people there. So I don't want to move it. I'm not going to support this. And I'm not saying not to support Councilor Peleshi's, but this is way ahead. His comes up, that's fine too. but not remove funding from here, which is federal, and bring it, and let it sit. Why let it sit? For construction cost more? For next year, it's just gonna cost more, 20% more. We started this with $18 million in 2018, and now they're saying we need 33. Well, we could have built 2 rec centers. And all the money put into the design, tearing it down, back and forth. Now we're gonna let it sit there. I can't support this. Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Palashi, for the motion, because it certainly, if I had the benefit of having Ward 3 and 4 councillor next to me, I'd be able to debrief and get a consensus if we support it or not. I think certainly it does support residents in Wards 4. I do think there is a need, so you know, what Councillor Palashi, I think, is bang on when he refers to that area. But with that said, there's a couple things that concern me when you're trying to do a decision of this magnitude. One is a communication with residents. So I don't know, but I would assume the residents, there's expectation, and you can't just one day tell residents Howden is coming or Howden is coming, and the area councillors would know better than me. And I'm concerned that, I'm not sure if they were taken apart, but what type of communication do you go to residents and sort of say that you're picking winners and losers? But what I heard from staff, through you, Mr. Mayor, and if I'm not mistaken, Embleton technically, regardless of this motion, is not prepared to go in 3 months as, or in third quarter as Howden is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So this motion really doesn't do much, because the timeline that is established for Embleton, you're confident we're still going to meet regardless.
Yes, we will.
Okay. So if we were to reallocate the resources, as was suggested, we take away the money and we say, let's leave Howden for a year and full steam ahead with Embleton. It's really not going to do much in terms of the timing and servicing the area. Am I right?
For you, Mr. Mayor, you're right.
Okay. So at the end of the day, again, I'm not going to ask Councillor Palashi to retract the motion, because he has every right to. But if it really doesn't have an impact on delivering Embleton, why would we harm Howden? And there's a couple of things with Howden, I guess. You know, one is the communication with residents. So if we want to do this, at least defer it, allow the opportunity for the area councillors and the mayor to be there and to be accountable to the residents, and let them know we've decided as a council to support a different area of Brampton, and we're putting this off for a year. So the accountability, I think, is extremely important, and the honesty with the residents. So to make a decision without, the residents haven't had the opportunity to come here and engage with a decision of this magnitude. So that's one thing I'm uncomfortable. So maybe if they want to defer it to allow for that approximation and communication, I think would be important. The technical aspect of it, by us deferring Howden, is not going to do anything. But Councillor Fortini, what, you know, the point, and I'm not going to underscore this group SNAPSO, which LIUNA really provides support, which is a union organization, and they provide financial support. And these are folks who, especially with adult children, similar to the Luso Charity, where they don't have, with kids with disabilities, they don't have anywhere to leave them during the day, and they use that space. And I know the people involved in that organization, there's a lot of excitement and anticipation when that's going to happen. So that is concerning, at least not engaging with internal stakeholders who are end users. So that's another aspect to this. But when it comes from the financial, and this is where I need to understand, we, for example, get federal funding in 2018, am I correct? When did we get federal funding through you, Mr. Mayor?
For which project?
For the Howden.
So through the chair, there was no federal funding for Howden. It was for Chris Gibson.
Okay, so what are we talking about the 50-50? So what?
Through the chair, I can, so it's 50% of our own DCs and 50% of federal funding that we receive on regular basis.
Ah, okay.
And we allocate to capital.
Sure. Okay.
So I misspoke before when I said there were grant conditions. That's not the case.
No problem. But with us, again, would those funds be reallocated to Hamilton? But even if we, what I heard, even if we reallocate those funds, it really does nothing. Or, so why are we playing around with timelines if it really, from a an impact. If you told me that tomorrow Embleton's built and we're going to build it 1 year sooner, my residents in Wards 4 would be served. Again, I'm not sure. The spirit of the motion, I think, is good. Certainly, the area councillors are fighting for their area. I guess the last question through you, Mr. Mayor. Our commissioner, can you attest to then the population servicing? So is it 40, you said 43, 60?
Through the mayor, I see on the motion, so I haven't had a chance to confirm the populations there, but I see it's 60, sorry, I just can't see that far.
And then after, I guess if we're doing apples to apples, we would have to look at the size of what we're servicing. So Embleton being bigger would probably serve more than the small ones.
So, yeah, through the mayor, I think the plan is for Embleton to be a much larger center, obviously servicing a bigger area, bigger population, more amenities.
Sure. So I guess then, you know, it's one of these motions, I think, a good intent, but why go through this when it does nothing but just impact Howden? Because if I understand through staff, and maybe Marlon, CEO, you can attest to, by us not doing anything and following full steam, because one of the first comments I said at the beginning of this budget, we have not built anything in years. We're ready to build in third quarter. We have ready to start the construction, and we're saying, let's wait another year. And our budget should really be about implementation. We moved a motion in December about all these projects, and was Howden one of these projects that we had to fast track to ensure that we make up what we've been sort of not building?
Through the chair to Councilor Medeiros, yes, Howden and several other projects are there. And in fact, the process is actually going through right now. As purchasing is just revising their tender documents to accommodate that report from December.
Okay, so we just moved a motion in December, recognizing Howden had to be fast-tracked, and we're giving the CEO the resources. I'm more than happy, Councillor Pellecci, to fully support the motion that you bring that says, let's look at ways to fast-track Embleton. But it could be separate in relation to Howden. I don't see why Howden has to be part of this motion. It could be simple motion, Embleton needs to be built sooner, and let's put resources towards it. And staff report back on how we can do that. I think that would be the best spirit of collegiality of this municipality, of this council, to work together and recognize our councillors in 7 and 8, and most importantly, the residents of 7 and 8, because the residents have not had the opportunity to receive that communication. So I'll leave it there. In the way that it is, I couldn't support it, but I hope, Councillor Pellecci, that you might maybe just withdraw the Howden impact and just proceed with Embleton and ask staff to report back on how we can make it quicker. I think that would be the right spirit for this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Medeiros. And I'll just note, you know, we are expanding recreation everywhere. It's not a question of if we're going to build recreation in every ward, it's when, and that's all we're talking about is the equitable distribution of timelines. It's not canceling projects, it's really just picking the expedited timetables, and I'm excited that we continue to be a city that puts major investments in recreation as a priority. We have a motion moved by Councillor Pellecci, second by Councillor Santos. Recorded vote requested.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, recorded votes requested on Councillor Pellecci's motion, moved by Councillor Pellecci, seconded by Councillor Santos, as shown on the right hand of the screen, to amend recommendation BC 027. All in favor of the motion, please stand to be counted. Showing in favor is Councillor Santos, Councillor Brar, Councillor Pellecci, Councillor Keenan, Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Singh. All opposed, please stand to be counted. Showing as opposed is Councillor Power, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Medeiros. The motion carries 7-3 with one absence.
Okay. Our next item to the clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So I believe Councillor Santos had a motion, which is shown on the left-hand side of the screen, in regards to amending recommendation BC 005 in regards to the Canadettes renovation budget to change the the value from 164,000 to 200,000, and to approve the motion as amended. It does require a seconder.
Seconded by Councillor Keenan. Councillor? Okay. Councillor Santos, would you like to speak to that, or just, okay. All those in favor of the motion? Motion carries.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, if there's no other questions on the Budget Committee recommendations, then we have the summary of recommendations from Budget Committee from its meeting over a 3-day period, and specifically adopting the recommendations which are included in the Budget Committee summary, save and except for BC 028. We'll set that one aside, and that way this will allow Councillor Fortini, who declared a conflict, to vote on the balance of the recommendations, and then we'll take a separate vote on only on BC 028, which relates to the compensation portion of the Enforcement and Bylaw Services Division budget for operating, because Councillor Fortini declared a conflict. Those are all in here. Yep. Yep. So through you, Mr. Mayor, just to be clear with council, so these are the group of recommendations that Budget Committee has deliberated on over the 3-day period. So it includes all the departmental budgets, all the other amendments that have been introduced, so they're all in there. If you wish, we can go through each one of them, but we're at the will of council.
So there's been a request from Councillor Pleshy and Brar and Santos to pull the seniors motion. I think the CEO's got a suggestion that we align it with the user fee bylaw review, and we remove the 90 category to expedite that implementation. Do we need a moment to align that wording?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so that recommendation is BC 012. Maybe Charlotte, if you can bring that one up on the screen, it should be further down in the list. BC 012, and this arises from Budget Committee. It was a recommendation to receive the report that staff presented as part of Budget Committee on recreation cost analysis for free older adult programming, and there was an amendment moved, which is Clause 2, that carried at Budget Committee and is before Council for approval or amendment as Council sees fit.
Yeah, I think the wording that was suggested was to align it with the user fee bylaw, which would allow for, in 2024, to align the free seniors recreation with the user fee bylaw review.
So then through you, Mr. Mayor, then is the intent, and a member will need to move this and it will require a seconder, is to essentially strike out Clause 2, and that'll come back with the contemplated review in 2024 and just receive the report?
Study in 2024.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, is the intent then to approve it tonight or not approve it tonight?
To approve it tonight.
With implementation?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sorry, I misunderstood. So then it's an amendment, does require a mover and seconder to amend Clause 2 to approve this subject to implementation to take effect in 2024 through the 2024 user fee study when that comes forward.
Okay, there may be some back channel conversation here. I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor just to work with. Okay.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. So I think what we've heard from our seniors and indeed aligned with the user fee study, which is very important, but I think what we want is a change of the age threshold to start earlier at the age of 70 and above, starting in 2024. And then 65 and above, or 65 and above in 2025.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, Counselor, you're going to have to repeat that because there's.
So in clause
First,
2,
through you, Mr. Mayor, first, we can only deal with one motion at a time, and we need a mover and a seconder. So is the intent to follow through with what council was just talking about and the CEO was referencing, or is it something different?
So I'll defer to Councillor Santos's wording. The CEO had offered one suggestion, but we can defer to Councillor Santos's solution. I believe she's been speaking to some of the senior clubs.
yeah. So the, implementation, it will be aligned with the user fee study, but the phase-in will start with ages 70. It's the category of the age groups. So 70 above and then 65 and above. Phased in. Yeah. So 2024 ages 70 and above, 2025 ages 65 and above. And you could scratch out 3.
And thank you, Councillor Santos. Let me just also say, I want to note, Council was alarmed when we were told that a presentation was made to seniors associations suggesting that it was a 10-year phase-in. And anyone who attempts to confuse or mislead seniors, that's dishonorable conduct, and I'm sorry that anyone made that false presentation to you. It's unbecoming of anyone who is meant to represent the city of Brampton. I apologize for the confusion that arose from that. The motion we passed was unanimous for the phase-in. Every member of council voted for it. And I wanted that clarified.
Thank you. And Mr. Mayor, if I may, because I just wanted to continue on that point, I know that some of the seniors who are here today did reach out with those same concerns, Mr. Mayor, that you had brought up regarding some reference to a 10-year phase-in and various other items, which I suppose we'll have to deal with later. But as you can see from the motion on the screen, that was never the case, ever. And so, you know, I think it's unfortunate that you were given that wrong information. And next time, and please always reach out to any one of us to confirm any misinformation that anyone ever tells you again. Okay? And so, no, you're not allowed to speak. It's okay. So that will be the fees, and again, the user fee study is very important because we have to understand the impact on demand, right? When something is free, all of a sudden, we have to understand the impact on staffing, the costs, et cetera, in order to adjust the budget. That's just, you know, the responsible thing to do. It was never a 10-year phase-in. Never believe that again.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And to the senior clubs, you don't need to apologize for receiving false information. It says more about the people trying to manipulate and confuse you than it is the recipients of that group. And we once again apologize that anyone made that misrepresentation. But we've got a great motion here that I think we're excited to support. Moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Power. Record a vote.
Recorded vote's been requested on the amendment to recommendation BC 012. Moved by Councillor Santos, seconded by Councillor Power. All those in favor stand to be counted. Showing in favor is Councillor Santos, Councillor Vicente, Councillor Brar, Councillor Paleshi, Councillor Keenan, Mayor Brown, Deputy Mayor Singh, Councillor Power, Councillor Fortini, Councillor Medeiros. It carries unanimously, 10-0 with 1 absence.
Congratulations, we'll be the first city in Canada with free recreation for seniors. Yeah. Okay, this takes us to the next item.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, just as we're just cleaning up this one, so So we haven't finished the budget yet, so we still have the balance of the Budget Committee recommendations.
So why don't we have a 2-minute pause for those that may not want to finish the final items. And I just want to, while we're giving people an opportunity to leave, I want to recognize some special guests we have here tonight. Alessandro Nasanti is here. Give us a wave. The son of our vice chair of the budget committee. Looks like he's enjoying the deliberations tonight. Honorina and Angela, thank you for the support here in the council chambers tonight. Sure. Okay, we'll take a 2-minute recess. Clerk will put on the screen.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to members of council. So the next motion is the balance of the Budget Committee recommendations. These are the recommendations coming out of Budget Committee over its 3-day session. Save and except for recommendation BC 028, as that was the one I mentioned earlier that Councillor Fortini declared a conflict. So we're going to vote on the rest as amended that haven't been voted on except for 028. So we do require a mover and seconder.
Moved by Councillor Paleshi, seconded by Councillor Power. All those in favor? Motion carries.
And now, Councillor Fortini, if you can just step out for a moment and we'll take a vote on recommendation BC 028. Councillor Fortini, if you can just step away, please. So this is a vote that will require a mover and seconder for only for recommendation BC 028-2023, and it relates to the compensation portion of the enforcement and bylaw services budget within legislative services.
Moved by Councillor Brar and second by Councillor Keenan. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you. And Councillor Fortini, you can re-enter. Thank you. So that motion carries. So the next is, through you, Mr. Mayor, would be going back to the technical recommendations supplied by the Finance Department. And we're going to bring those up on the screen. And there are 9 recommendations. And just to note, these are supplied by Finance to essentially close the loop on the budget for the 2.9% increase. And there is just one slight change. You'll see in the very first clause, it is 36764,131. So that's just an updated number based on the addition, I believe, of the $50,000 into the communications budget from an earlier motion this evening. And it does not have a material change, as I understand, from Finance on the 2.9%. Yeah. So we'll require a mover and seconder for these technical recommendations.
Okay, moved by the Budget Vice Chair, Councillor Paul Vicente. Seconded by Councillor Brar. All those in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes the budget 2023 to 2025 budget recommendations. So then the next item on tonight's agenda is item 6.2, which is the summary of recommendations from yesterday's Committee of Council meeting.
Okay, we have Item 6.2, moved by Councillor Medeiros, seconded by Councillor Power. All those in favor? Motion, correct? Not ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
It's going to come to a future
Yeah.
meeting.
All those in favor? Motion carries.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that leads us to item 8, which is public question period. And I don't know if there's any members of the public this evening here in person who wish to ask a question. Just going to check online if there's any questions, and there are none.
This takes us to bylaws. Moved by Councillor Keenan, seconded by Councillor Santos. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay. There's no closed session. This takes us to confirming bylaw, but before we get to the confirming bylaw, I want to thank our city staff who worked very hard on this budget. I think it's a budget we can all be very proud of. It's a healthcare budget that really enables the construction of a new hospital and a med school. It makes major investments in recreation and seniors. And Nash, your team has been exceptional. To our CEO, Marlon, thank you for, if you could make this thank you on behalf of all of our councillors, to all the staff members that helped you putting this together. I know putting together a budget isn't easy, and we got an incredible team here at the City of Brampton, and I think we can hold our heads high on this budget. I would note that despite the fact this is our first increase in 5 years, it's also the smallest in the region. If you look at the increases in Mississauga and Toronto, we have once again been an example of fiscal responsibility, knowing the pressures that are facing our residents, for seniors to families on a fixed income. I think this budget also takes into account their realities. So I'm proud to be able to communicate this budget to our residents, but I do so with a level of appreciation for all of your hard work to make this possible. And we've had a number of sessions and probably a record amount of public engagement. I look at Nash and Mark because they probably say they spent too much time with Councillor Vicente and myself and all the councillors, because we had coffee chats in every ward pairing. We had two teletown halls, small business roundtable. Unless you're hiding under a rock, we really tried to make sure that everyone who wanted to have input in this budget had the opportunity to do so. And I think that grassroots input is critical. A city is at its strongest when residents are involved and engaged. So thank you for a great document, and I believe my vice chair wanted to say a word of thanks as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and just want to echo your sentiments in thanking staff for having guided not just myself and the mayor, but every member of council through the budget, and to make sure that we all understood everything that was contained in it. And I want to just say that without your help, we wouldn't have been able to get through it. So thank you very much for all of your assistance and guidance.
Okay. Now, Nash, I saw you put your hand up. Is there any last technical issue we need to deal with? Yeah. No, I think we've. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Are we good? Everything's good?
Every item.
Okay.
Okay, good.
What's going on?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you very much for your guidance and throughout the whole process and so on. We really tried everything that we can do. I think I speak on behalf of the whole management team to provide all our best inputs to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so that takes us to confirming bylaw. Moved by Councillor Medeiros, seconded by Councillor Singh, to the following bylaw before council, special council meeting March 9th be given the required number of readings, taken as read and signed by the mayor and city clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto. Bylaw 49, 2023. To confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting on March 9th, 2023. All those in favor? The motion carries. Good job. Thank you for the applause there, Councillor Santos.
Wasn't for you.
This takes us to adjournment. Moved by Councillor Brar, seconded by Councillor Singh. All those in favor? Motion carries. We are now adjourned, and the budget is passed.